good. Well, good evening. This is Wilson, November 6 Echo Mike Foxtrot, your net control operator for the River City Arc Slow Scan TV net. This net serves for training and practice in image transmission modes and meets Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. on the N6NA repeater on 441.30 megahertz. River City Arc's members and all licensed amateur radio operators are welcome to participate. If you wish to join the net or need to make a call at any time, please announce your call sign between transmissions and net control will acknowledge you. If an emergency should arise and you need the repeater, please contact the net control by saying break break. A double break signifies emergency traffic. The net will stand by for you until the emergency is terminated or the traffic is moved to another frequency. Stations who wish to check in are asked to respond with their full call sign using the recognized ITU phonetic alphabet and their name. I will recognize each station before continuing. I apologize, folks. I feel a little wheezy tonight. It must be the smoke in the air and hopefully nothing else. But thanks for your patience. Any station who wishes to check into the net, please come now.
November 6, Papa Golf, Quebec, Bob in Roseville.
Lima 7 Hotel, Quebec, Romeo Neil in Antelope.
Kilo 3, Romeo Echo Hotel. This is Anders in Folsom.
All right. Well, let me announce. Let me recognize 3 check-ins, and there was 1 double with Anders. So before I continue, maybe go ahead and see if I could have after Anders someone to check in again.
Alpha India 6 Delta Golf, Joel in Florin.
All right. Any more check-ins?
Yeah, this is Kilo Papa 4 Mike Delta Carol, Citrus Heights.
All right, very good. It looks like we have a well-situated cast. Any other check-ins? Well, all right, I've got 6 check-ins, including myself. Number 1 is Bob, N6PGQ, and Neil, KL7HQR. I got Anders, K3REH, Joel, AI6DG, Carol, KP4MD, and thanks for checking in, everybody, and good evening. Before we get started, I wanted to see if anybody had any special announcements or want to change the order in which you transmit your photo. Please come now. Hearing no changes, I would like to motion to have Bob go first.
Okay, well, this is going to be on PD 120, and if I can get the thing to quit switching, we'll give it a shot.
Oh, all right, Bob. I was able to copy your photo, and it looks like for some reason the bottom 10% of my photo got some noise in it. Not sure what happened. The photo has a black animal on a pedestal, sort of like a figurine. Maybe I can't identify the animal. I apologize, but it looks like a hybrid of some different types of animals, maybe. Can't recognize what it is. Very, very interesting. And so before I extract too much fun out of it, maybe I'll turn it over to Neil. Neil, did you copy?
Scale 7HQR. Well, I had trouble with on my end here receiving. I caught part of the picture, and the green noise that you have in the bottom of the picture, I do have. I think it was part of the transmission. I think the picture was a little short. It looks like, on the right-hand side, looks like some kind of a beast that could be, well, it's not a cow, and he seems to be eating something, maybe a person with a torso and the legs dangling. But that's the only part I got, was the very bottom of it. So I can't see what the whole picture was on the YouTube, but I'll let Carol comment to that. So back to Ned.
All right. Well, thank you, Neil. Any other comments? I'll go on down the list in just a second. Anybody else want to jump in there before I point to Anders, K3REH? Okay, go ahead, Anders, K3REH.
So I received a really nice copy of what was actually on the air. I think the first portion was cut off. There was something going on in the beginning of the picture, and that's why the whole thing is shifted up with the noise at the end. I'm seeing a figurine of some form of black stone-ish material. Interestingly, there are 5 legs. There are 3 that looks like they have hoofs, and 2 that looks like they have toes. And then some kind of horns on the other side there, some kind of cow or buffalo or something like that. The size of the thing is very hard to discern from the picture. Assuming that the background is some kind of floor tile, maybe, that would make the thing roughly 6 inches across, maybe, something like that. But that's just a very rough guess. K3RH, back to Net.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I have to admit I was slightly impatient, and right as Bob was transmitting, I asked if he was doing okay, and that probably occurred for less than 1 second, but it doesn't seem to match what I see at the bottom of the screen for time, but it could be. Yeah, there was quite a delay just before he transmitted, and then I said, "Hey, Bob, are you okay?" But it doesn't seem to be consistent with the amount of time required to generate that amount of noise. But I would agree with you, Anders, that it's probably 6 inches, and it's some kind of hybrid animal. And I'm gonna go out there and say he's wearing a gun holster or some kind of harness on his back legs. It looks weird. But anyway, fun stuff. Turning it over to Joel, AI6DG.
So I largely agree with everything that's already been said. I mean, we've got some sort of figurine of a black substance, stone or otherwise, sitting on a stone, either flagstone, flooring, or maybe a granite or stone kitchen counter. I think it's an animal, a four-legged animal of some kind, like a bovine, like a cow, water buffalo, something like that, with a human figure standing next to it. It's just that we can't see that fourth leg of the animal, so it's a bad angle. We're looking at this figurine at a really bad angle, looking down at it. So, and I think whatever happened that cut off the top, if that's what happened, just made it worse because we can't detail. The missing detail makes it very confusing. But I think I see a horn on the right side, 2 feet on the left of the human figure, maybe a machete or a rifle or something in a holster sticking out. I'm thinking water buffalo, but it's really hard to tell for sure because it's a bad angle, missing the top portion of it. I look forward to actually it would be interesting to see the full photo at a better angle, but the description from at the end will be interesting to hear. Back to Net AI6TG.
All right, well, thank you for that, Joel, AI6DG. And Carol, were you able to, obviously you were able to copy, but did you, looking at your YouTube, you must have, so did you have any questions or comments for the photo that Bob has sent?
Yeah, this is KP4MD. Apparently, we lost, I think, about a fifth of the picture. The top is missing, and you just see the human figure, the human figure from the shoulders down to the 2 feet, and looks like he's carrying something in his right arm. Then the animal, some kind of a cow, looks like it may be grazing on grass or something. So back to Annette. This is KP4MD.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you, Carol. I would kind of follow in with your suggestion. Maybe Bob's transmitter didn't actually get to transmit while this image was being conveyed by the program. So anyway, let's turn it back over to Bob for a narrative of the photo he has sent. Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry it didn't all make it to everybody. This was one of those last-minute photos that, you grab your phone and go grab something to take a picture of. And you're right, it's on the floor of the dining room, so you were good at guessing that. The figurine is carved ebony, and it's a picture of a water buffalo and his handler. The very back round part is a basket that, I don't know, you might want to put a candle in it or something like that, but it's never had anything in it. It was brought back from the Philippines in the very late 40s or early 50s by my wife's great uncle, who went to the Philippines to help the Philippine people improve agriculture. And while he was there, the Japanese attacked the Philippines, and he and his brother marched in the Bataan March and survived. And when he left, he started a real estate business in the Philippines and would come back to visit his family here. And he brought this figurine to Connie's dad and mom. So it's a really nice little piece. It's a water buffalo grazing. The kind of hairy stuff down in the very bottom is whatever water buffaloes graze on, some kind of tall grass. And it's a nice picture. I'm sorry I didn't get the contrast real good so you could see the detail in it, but it is what it is. N6PGQ.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing the historical background on this, Bob. There's a lot of history encapsulated in that item, and I think no one else could tell the story better than you. And there's, you might consider putting a little note under the base, just for future reference, for archive purposes, so people will know. If they're just happen to be at your place and pick it up, they could look underneath and see what it's all about. That's interesting. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Yep. Okay, well, if hearing none, no other comments or questions, Again, thanks for sending the photo with some really good historical perspective on it. And yeah, this is interesting times. This was presumably made in the 1940s. Okay, Neil, if you're ready, KL7HQR, it sounded like you had some receive issues. Hopefully you're ready to transmit. N6 EMF, you're in net control. Go ahead, Neil.
Roger, KL7HQR, we're okay, just doing a tone test. Okay, looks like we did okay. It will be PD 120.
Neil. I was able to copy a wonderful photo. It looks like equipment, possibly radio or test equipment in a rack with an inset picture of someone in the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to take a guess at who that is, but I'm not going to say who right now. I'll quickly turn it over to Bob, N6PGQ. Were you able to copy?
Yeah, the quality came through real well. There are some artifacts in this picture this week. I know who that person is, and we'll let other people figure it out. I agree, it looks like test equipment. First one looks like it's, it might be an O-scope or something to that effect, and the bottom one's has a series of knobs, a larger knob on the right, and it may be a enlargement of the picture that's in the upper left with the oval white circle in it. We'll let Neil do some explaining. I have probably a better idea than some, having listened to Neil's conversation, so I'll let other people do some talking. N6PGQ.
Okay, well, very good, Bob. I appreciate that, and I'll turn it over to Anders. Let's see, Anders, K3REH, were you able to copy?
Certainly have a good copy. Very few sparks on the picture, but yeah, I see at least two instruments there. I agree with that. There's probably some kind of oscilloscope on the top. The middle piece, I can't really see what it is. It looks like it has maybe above the big knob to the right, maybe some kind of analog meter. The insert up to the left through threw me off a little bit, because the oval, I first imagined that it was taken through some form of glass, and maybe that oval was a port through that glass, and the whole thing was inside of a bubble of some form, isolated lab type environment. But yeah, the idea that might be the circle that shows the magnification, the rest of the picture is magnification of what's inside of that circle, makes much more sense. Very fashionable color. It looks like the person in the picture is also in camouflage clothing there against the background. So it's all definitely very color composed together. Yeah, that's what I see. K3REH, back to net.
Yeah, see, you framed that with lots of fun references. I appreciate that, Anders. Thank you very much. And I'll turn it over to Joel, AI6DG. Were you able to copy?
So I'm assuming this is a continuation of last week's from Neil. And so we've got in the upper left corner a full photo with an white oval drawn around a section of it, and then that's been enlarged. That area of that photo has been enlarged and is the right 3 or 4/5 of the photo. We're looking at a couple of rack cabinets, that top half of which are angled at an angle, so it's kind of like a console to put equipment in. We've got 2 shelves in particular that we're zoomed in on. The upper one, I'm assuming, is Hamkeer and is a Panoscope. The lower one is a Drake TR4, I think he said he had. And I think I'm assuming the person in the photo is Neil, and didn't he say this was Philippines, I think he said? And so I'm assuming this is, 10, 20, 30 years old. I don't, how long ago this was. But that's it. Back to net, AI6DG.
I'm in more suspense now. I can't wait to hear the story on this one. How about Carol? Thank you, Joel.
Okay, this is KP4MD. I figured that Joel would know that transceiver because he sent a picture of the inside of his Drake TR3 last week. So this is the front panel, and that could be either the Drake TR3 or the TR4. Probably the TR4 if it's the more later model. And then that unit on top there, I recognize that from the 70s. Used to see it in all of the QST magazines and the 73 magazines. That's a Robot Model 70 SSTV monitor, one of the first commercially manufactured slow scan TV monitors. So back to net. This is KP4MD.
Wow. Well, if that's a legacy SSTV monitor, hat goes off to Neil. That was some early days of SSTV, and I just can't imagine how much of an investment that would have been back then, or at least to have to build it. Interesting. How about it, Neil? Can you tell us more about the photo? Thank you.
I know. KL7HQI. Oh well. Joe is correct. I selected this one as a follow-up to his picture last week. The picture on the left-hand side, the top, the small one, I sent as a full picture quite several weeks ago, and I also used that when we had Show My Shack on one of the meetings, the Zoom meetings a long time ago. That's myself. That's 1975. Elmendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage, Alaska, and I'm putting together my ham station. And it is this is a TR3. If you look at the picture, you can even see the little mobile mounting on the left-hand side of the unit, about a third of the way up in the black panel. And I was just putting this together. But when Joel sent the picture of the inside, I believe he said was a TR4. And I was very ashamed that I did not recognize it. Carol did. And then once she mentioned, then everything came together. So I just wanted to show you guys what it looked like. And it was vacuum tubes, and it worked beautifully. And that's the one that I used up in the backwoods of Alaska to do the communication with the mushers and the idea about racing. The unit on top, Carol was exactly correct. It is a robot slow scan television. And let me let it drop for a second. And it used to be made with green phosphorus, and it was a P7 phosphorus, and the scan would scan left to right on top, and then start coming down. By the time it got down to the bottom, the top was almost faded away, and you had to put a little visor on top to put your eyes on, and so that you could see. And it was just green phosphorus and 128 lines. It was fun though. I like the way it is today. Back to that.
I guess that's what you would call phosphorus memory. There was no solid state memory or other form of memory other than what was left on the screen after a scan, right?
Yeah, absolutely correct. And there was another picture of the console where I show a cassette recorder, and that's how we recorded the audio. And I had no camera, so I had to record the audio received from others and then send it back. And I still have some of the cassette recorders with that. I don't know if there was any software that would still decode that. So that's that.
With some AI or some deep learning tools with MATLAB, you probably could whip something up pretty quickly if you wanted to decode that audio. I'm pretty sure. But that's fascinating, and thank you for sharing that, Neil. We'll see if there's any other comments or questions on this.
If those recordings are of slow scan, wouldn't they still be recordable? Because isn't this format of slow scan still the same now as it was back then?
I really don't know. I'm going to have to research that. I never thought about searching. There are so many different methods that maybe one of the modes is still, a legacy mode. We'll find out and let you guys know.
Yeah, I think it's the Martian mode. Anyway, all right, well, thanks for that question, and let me turn over the next transmission to Anders, K3REH. Anders, if you're ready, go right ahead and transmit.
This is K3REH transmitting in PD120.
this is Net Control November 6 Echo Mike Foxtrot. Currently, I am trying to zoom in on the photo, and for some reason, for me, it appears to be SSTV has frozen up. But I will say that, oh, here it is, and it looks pretty decent photo. It's not as sharp as I would like, but the color spectrum is good. A few pixel pops here and there. It is not super sharp, but what I see is what I think I see here is a photograph with some direction finding or fox hunting tools, possibly lying on the floor or the ground. See a stack of circuit boards splayed out across the floor on the left. Maybe a handheld antenna mast, maybe a stick. Don't know what else to call the antenna, but it looks like a set of rabbit ears connected to a short length of coax to possibly a Baofeng radio or something like that, and then maybe a frequency counter device with a rubber ducky element antenna on the upper right, or it's kind of middle left rather, or middle right. So there's my assessment of the photo. It looks like fun fox hunting gear or something. So I'd like to hear from, let me turn it over to Joel first, AI6DG. Go right ahead, Joel. Did you copy?
Excellent reception. So up the front center of the, we're looking at a collection of objects sitting on the floor probably. Up the center we have basically looks like a wood stick with a bow tie type of antenna on top of it. Okay, I think I know it. I think I've had talks with Anders, so I think I have a little bit of inside knowledge into what this is. So this is the project he's been working on. So you got the stick on top of that, a Baofeng, a bow type of antenna, coax coming down out of that to tape to the stick in the middle, and then a loop of coax going to the Baofeng, and then above and slightly to the right at an angle of that is, I guess it could be a frequency counter. I was thinking it was some sort of SDR receiver. So, well, like it could be either. To the left of the stick with the antenna on it, to the left of that is, like you said, a stack of circuit boards. And I'm thinking these are like above that, and kind of the board's kind of sitting on top of. I think we've got 3 or 4 like plastic envelopes that you would get pigtail RF cables in. So maybe that's what was. Maybe the coax between the antenna and the Baofeng came out of one of those envelopes. I think this is an RF direction finding project that Anders is working on. Back to Net AI6DG.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Joel. A nice photo, Anders, and nice work of some kind. So I'm going to do a random pick. Carol, KP4MD. What would you say about the photo?
Okay, yeah, this is KP4MD. I recognize the Baofeng radio. The bow tie loop antenna on top there, I believe I've seen something similar in a video, ARRL video that had to do with a kit for direction finding. I don't know what the box is with the rubber duck antenna or the PC boards on the left, but everything else is just as previously reported. Back to Net. This is KP4MD.
All right, thank you, Carol. Go right ahead, Bob. N6PGQ, you're up.
Well, boy, I can't add much more to what people were saying. The little white box there has 4 arrows on it, and obviously are the switches to control whatever it does, maybe a scanner of some type, I don't know. But everybody else has gotten everything else that I have. Picture quality is really good, only a few pops in there, N6 PGQ.
All right, well, very good, Bob. Let me turn it over to Neil, KL7HQR. You copy?
KL7HQR. Yeah, it's a very, very good picture. As Bob indicated, it has been described extremely well. So it looks like the quality of the picture we received by everybody was really good. With the advancing of the hour, we still need to have some more pictures. I will cut my comments just by saying I got a very, very good copy, and no problem at all, and very curious to know what this contraption is. Back to Net.
All right, well, thank you for your comments, Neil. That was KL7HQR, and I could see on YouTube we have 2 viewers, so give a shout out to them. Actually, 3 watching now, and we'll hear from Carol who they are in just a moment. But before we do that, I'll turn it over to Anders, K3REH. Tell us all about your photo.
Yeah, you captured a lot of it there. It is a little direction finding project that I found. It's called the Handy Finder. You can Google it, HANDI-FINDER.com. So this is not my design. Well, part of it is. I made my own circuit board for it. The Handy Finder original project is all through-hole mount. I made it all surface mount and made it tiny. So the boards that you see to the left there, I ordered those separate. I designed them and ordered them, and built a couple of these. So the boards are just marginally larger than a 9-volt battery. So what you see on the top of the stick there is the 9-volt battery holder, and right behind that is the board that you see down on the left there. The pile of components is just what goes on the board, so that's little baggies with all the parts that goes on the board. And what caught my interest with this whole project was, first of all, its extreme simplicity. It's just a handful of parts, and then the method they use to switch these antennas back and forth. So the bow tie ears there are basically 2 antennas, and they're switched back and forth in an audible frequency, so about 1 kilohertz. Which means that if the 2 antennas sees a signal out of phase, you will hear the audible tone, but when the 2 antennas see the same signal, there will be no audible difference when the switching goes back and forth, so you won't hear that tone in your radio. Initially, I couldn't really make this work. Quick break. I had some troubles getting this working, and the issue I had was simply that I tried to use it on sources that had modulation. So I was trying to locate nearby FM stations and things like that. That's why the little silver device to the right there was introduced. So that's actually a transmitter. It's an RF signal generator. It's a device that just lets me output pretty much any carrier that I want, anywhere from tens of megahertz up to gigahertz range. So when I started using this and tried to start locating it, all of a sudden everything jumped into place and it works really, really well. So this is a fun, really, really simple project. I really recommend you look at handyfinder.com to learn more about it. So that's the little project for today. K3REH, back to Net.
Wonderful story. Thanks for setting that up for us, Anders. Appreciate that. Handy Finder, I've taken note of that, and also note that a nano VNA or any type of vector network analyzer can also serve as a signal generator if you set it up right. I've done that by accident and discovered how useful that is. So, but congratulations on getting this really cool direction finder kit together. I'm really impressed with it. So congratulations, and I want to see if anybody else has any other points or questions or comments. All right, well, thank you for that. I'll send the PD50 in a moment, but before I do, did Carol want to give a shout out to the YouTube viewers?
Yeah, this is KP4MD. I would love to do that, but unfortunately, the viewer says Shh, I'm a nobody. So you're just gonna have to look at the chat yourself on YouTube to find out who that is. And we just had Craig jump in there, WP2N, down from Cajun country. Hi there, Craig, and it's great to have you watching us. Back to net, it's KP4MD.
All right. Well, thanks for watching the cast, Craig, and have good evening to you, and thank you. I'm going to transmit N6EMF net control here. We'll be transmitting PD50. That should go very quickly. PD50. All right, well, in the interest of time, I sent this PD50, which is one of the fastest transmission modes, net control here in 6EMF, and to give you a hint, by converting it from the PD120 domain to the PD50 domain, I lost about 75% of the other items in the photo because of the way it scaled it down for some reason. But so I'll give a hint, or I'll give a clue to help to cast. It is an RF something. All right, net control turns it over to N6PGQ for questions or comments. Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, yuck. You guys know my sleuthing ability is terrible. Well, it's gold colored, and the bottom of the device, or whatever we're looking at, has some brighter lighting on it than the other part does. Only a few pops in it. It came through really, really quickly, just like you said. Call signs at the top, and SSTV version 1.13. So that came through also. Everything's lined up here. Boy, I give up. Next person.
All right, thank you for that, Bob. Neil, KL7HQR, were you able to copy?
Yeah, KL7HQR here. Yeah, very good copy. A few strikes on the black part, but overall, very good. Sorry that you could not send the whole picture, because that probably would be a lot more interesting. You said it's an RF something. Could be an RF shield, RF cage to go to shield parts of a circuit. But I still think it is a golden box that contains some bonbons and chocolate candy. So I have no idea. As Bob said, a picture came in very well, and curious to know what it is. Back to net.
Thank you for that, Neil. Anders, K3, REH, go right ahead. Were you able to copy?
So there is a similarity with the water buffalo here, that there is no scale. So this could be anywhere from an inch across to 3 feet. I have no clue how big it is. So that makes it a little more difficult to guess. Seems to sit on some form of semi-reflective surface. Golden box could be packaging, but maybe, yeah, an RF shield is the best I can come up with too, so I'd agree with Neil there. Interesting to learn what it is. Back to net, K3REH.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anders. Joel, AI6DG, were you able to copy?
reasonably good copy, although I've got some regions of noise on the bottom fifth and the bottom third. There's just not enough detail here really to know what we're looking at, either in scale or what. Looks to me like it's either a box you put things in or the lid to the box you put things in. And it could be RF shielding, or it could be metal, it could just be shiny paper. I don't see any sign really of seams on the edge or of it having been soldered, or it's just, we're going to have to wait for the description. Back to Net AI6DG.
All right, well, thanks for that, Joel. You're getting close. Carol, KP4MD, any questions or comments?
Yeah, this is KP4MD. Joshua is guessing that it's a reflector. He says he's got nothing. I would, it looks like it's sheet brass. The color kind of looks like brass, and it's been bent into the shape of a box. Possibly, this is something you would use as a, yeah, it has a table lit up. Okay, it has a table lit up. That's the reflection from the brass onto the table that, or the surface that it's on. And this could be very well used as an RF shield to cover part of a circuit. It could also serve as a reflector for a microwave antenna. I've seen antennas like that where you have a dipole in front of a reflective surface like this. Ding, 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 ding. Yes, that's what Joshua says. So that could be a microwave antenna. It could function that way as well. So I don't know. Maybe this is what you're going to build your QRP watt meter into. Well, back to you. This is KP4MD.
All right, well, thank you for that, Carol, KP4MD, and thanks for bringing forward Josh's comment. Let me express that this is probably the only ham radio accomplishment that I made for the week in the last 7 days since our net control. So I'm building a QRP watt meter project kit with the do-it-yourself radio builders group under N6NA. And the long story short is we had to develop our own RF shield for the logarithmic amplifier circuit set, which is off in one corner of the printed circuit board. And I would have been able to show you some of the materials and the circuit board itself and the tools that I use to fabricate this. So this is an RF shield fabricated from a sheet of brass that is 0.01 inches thick. So I guess that's 1/100th of an inch thick. And the long story short is I would have wanted to describe, where I got the materials from a local hobby shop and how I made the template in Microsoft Word and printed it out, cut it out into the shape of a cross with some patterns that I could use to use a set of aviation straight tin snips to cut this out into a box with 5 sides, and I was able to fold this up and make an RF shield. It is 1.25 inches by 1.25 on the top, and the sides are about a half-inch tall. So that box will be soldered onto the circuit board as an RF shield for the amplifiers for the QRP watt meter project. All right, well that's my photo. So my apologies for not having more information, but if there's no questions or comments, I'll get Joel ready to transmit his photo.
Congratulations, a lot of work.
So please verify that I have tone.
All right, thank you, Joel. Thank you, Neil. Go ahead, Joel, with tone. You did good. I copy tone. Go ahead, Joel. Joel, I was able to copy that photo just fine, and it's got really good color spectrum. I guess none of the photos tonight are super sharp, at least from my perspective, but a really exciting scenery inside this circuit board and enclosure, whatever it might be. But it looks like some kind of radio, and I can see a tuning shaft in there. And what I'll do from here is turn it over to Bob in N6PGQ. Were you able to copy?
I was. The quality's good. There's only a few artifacts on it. If you looked at the left side of the picture, you can see the knobs that control all of the different devices inside. You can see the rods going through the radio and the different sections that are in there. It's amazing how well and how neatly wired this is. You can see all the cabling has been put together and carefully tucked into different sections. Left wires appear to be a light color, perhaps white, and the ones in the middle are gray, so that they're going to different sections of the device. You can see all sorts of capacitors and stuff. Right at the moment, I can't see any tubes in there. I'm not looking very carefully. Maybe there's one in the very upper right-hand section. There's a couple of them, maybe one in the middle. Anyway, it's a piece of radio gear in N6PGQ.
Yes, sir, Bob, I would agree. Thanks for your narrative, your update. Let's see, for Neil, KL7HQR, were you able to copy?
Roger, KL7HQR. Very good copy, no problem. I have a feeling that this is Joe's follow-up to last week as well. And last week we saw the top of the TR3/TR4, where we could see all the vacuum tubes, and this is seems to be the bottom, and indicated there's no PC boards here. It's all point-to-point wiring, and I'm glad to see adult-sized capacitors and resistors and potentiometers, none of the baby stuff that we have today. And but I recognize a little bit because I have a little story about going into this thing. And when we have more time, I can go over it and talk about it. But I would guess this is the bottom side of the Drake transceiver. Back to that.
All right, Neil, I don't know if it's just me, but your audio seemed to become a little less or more faint as you carried through your speech, but it could be just me. Anyway, you may need to speak up a little bit, or maybe it could be just me, and I'll monitor for that. So N6EMF here is turning it over to Joel AI6. No, that was Joel's photo. Anders, K3REH.
Yeah, this is a piece of art, definitely. Electronics in Manhattan style. Lots of wires, lots of passives. I assume that there are tubes on the back, so that, or on the top, I guess. So this would be the underside of the machinery. A little curious about the background, though. It looks like beach towels. Hope this is not on the beach. That would not be the right environment for this kind of equipment, but looking forward to more detail. K3REH, back to net.
All right, tell that to the Marines. Thank you, Anders. I'll turn it over to, let's see, Carol, KP4MD. Any comments?
Yeah, this is KP4MD. Wow, we had a lot of pictures of Drake equipment between last week and this week. I agree. This is the bottom of the Drake TR3 that Joel sent us last week, and I recognize the three tube sockets for the sweep tubes in the lower right hand corner. Obviously, the a lot of point-to-point wiring. That's what we used to do back in those days. And you notice the copper color of the chassis. That's a steel chassis that's been plated for higher conductivity, and that's exactly the same color we saw last week when we were looking at the top of the chassis there. So back to Annette. This is KP4MD.
I really thanks for that, Carol. I appreciate the color spectrum. It's really vibrant. You know, the copper tones and the light that it gives off makes it almost look like a Christmas scene if you use your imagination. But that's just me being silly. Let's see, what else do we have here? We'll turn it over to Joel. AI6DG, would you like to tell us more?
So yes, this is complementary to last week's, whereas last week was the top of this rig. This is the bottom. There are no circuit boards in this radio. I mean, circuit boards were not in use at the time that this was designed. So I actually did a quick look up at the history of circuit boards, and they didn't really become common in commercial equipment until mid-late 60s. And this was probably designed well before that. So this is all point-to-point, raw components, mounted on posts with wires in between them. You can actually see kind of down the center a big wiring bundle with little forks of smaller bundles of wires shooting off into different sections to do the interconnects of stuff. And I'm kind of sad looking at the YouTube side, the poor quality, because there's a lot more detail. If you looked at the original and zoomed it in full screen, you'd see all kinds of stuff with it, individual components. You'd see how they do compartments within this bottom side. So you've got little metal compartments between various sections of the circuitry and shielding to try to isolate some of the circuitry. You'd see some of the switches and plugs and things. Now you might be able to see on the upper and upper left, center, and left edge, there's some pots and some phone jacks for like Vox adjustments and key and speaker. Carol pointed out the 3 sweep tube, I think they're sweep tubes, on the lower right, so that's the PA section. You'll also notice that one shaft that's going basically from front to back on the lower quadrant, the lower third, and that's the band switch. And the thing about on these radios, when you're switching bands, you've got little switch wafers that are switching in and out components or circuitry, because each band is going to have separate filter components in each section of the radio, in each IF, the PA final, and so forth. Each of those has to resonate at a specific frequency for that band. So you've got the band switch is the core of the radio, because it's switching a whole bunch of stuff in and out per band. I don't know what the gray box in the front of the radio is, the center left. I'm assuming it's like a VFO or BFO or something like that. That's the only thing I can think of that would need to be sealed like that. There were similar components on the top side, probably with similar function. And it is pretty, the way it's copper clad like that. It's interesting. Back to net, AI6DG.
All right, well, thanks for bringing us some more interesting and historical technology to the discussion, these Drake stuff. So thank you for that, Joel. So where we are now is want to ask the group if we have any other points or questions for the TR3 here. Okay, well, hearing none, I'd like to turn over the next transmission to Carol. If KP4MD is ready to go, go right ahead, Carol.
Yeah, hi, this is KP4MD. You know, I'm feeling very tired now. It's been a full day. It's already past 10 o'clock, so I will pass. Back to Net.
Okay, well, I will honor that request. Will not demand a wonderful photo from KP4MD this evening. We'll just let us wrap things up and close the net pretty quickly here. So I want to, before reading the script, just express appreciation to all the fun we were able to share tonight, and getting to know each other and sharing good photos. And thanks to all the folks out there on YouTube that are supporting and watching the cast run its show. So what I'll do is I'll say that thanks to all who participated in tonight's SSTV Net. We hope to see you again next Wednesday night at 9 p.m. The net is officially closed at 10:04 p.m. This is Wilson, November 6th Echo Mike Foxtrot, wishing you all a good evening.
Good night, guys. Good job. Thank you, everybody, for the good picture scale. 7HQR, clear and good night. By the way, I will not be here next week. I shall be upon the waves on a cruise. Good night.
All right, well, be safe out there, Neil, and enjoy your time away from things. Hope to hear you in the following week or sometime thereafter. 73 N6 EMF.
By the way, Joe, is the audio any better now?